When it's time to sell your car, there's definitely some DIY you're gonna wanna master, and we're here to help. So we've got 6 steps to make the process of selling your car easier, whether you're selling it to a private party or to a dealership. Hey everybody, I'm Desola from Edmonds, but we're known as the car testing pros. Now we've teamed up with CarMax to help make your car shopping and car selling a whole lot easier. These two have bought and sold a lot of cars, so they definitely know what they're talking about. What's up, Ron and Rex? How you doing today?
Doing good.
Good. Thanks for having us.
Of course, of course. So, what is the first step to selling your car?
Knowing its value.
Oh, okay. Knowing its value, knowing what it's worth, both of it. Okay, so what's the first step in finding out your car's value?
The first step you can do is to know the exact make and model of the car, and you want to know your trim level, what engine you have, and any other options that are on the car. Get it evaluated at the dealership, or you can do it online. All you have to do is put in your vehicle identification number, or your license plate, or even just the make and the model. So I recommend people go inside their car and you could sit there and compare what options that you have to get an accurate readout. But it's gonna come down to the condition level of the vehicle. You wanna be honest about it. A lot of people tend to overinflate the value of their vehicle. But if anything, it's better to err on the side of caution, go a little bit lower with it. And then that's gonna help you determine what it's gonna be going for, what other people are gonna be buying it for.
That's fair. Be realistic, people, okay?
Yeah, it's important to see what other people are asking for on the same car. But one thing to keep in mind is when you're looking at dealership inventory, they tend to mark it up a couple thousand. So you're not gonna get that price, but if you factor in a little bit less than that, then you'll kind of see what the going rate is for the car.
So after you do all that, all the research, how do you actually price your car?
If you're gonna sell it to a dealership, they're just gonna give you the price there, and you'll have to either take that or compare it to a couple of other dealerships to see which one makes you the better offer. Or if you're gonna sell it yourself, a couple thousand over to leave wiggle room for negotiation, because people are gonna bring you down a little bit less on that price.
But do you have any last tips for everybody?
Usually target between 50 to 100 miles, and you can target like dealership blocks, because there are times where there's like 4 or 5 dealerships per location. And you can go ahead and go to each one, field different offers, and make sure that you always request that the dealership honors their quote for 3 days. It doesn't hurt to ask.
All right, so those are some really good tips, guys. Thank you. What is step 2 of selling your car?
Paperwork.
Paperwork.
And no one wants to do that.
We love paperwork. So what paperwork do you need?
So you're gonna need your registration to make sure that the tags are paid off. You wanna get your vehicle title. If you're still paying the vehicle off, you wanna get in touch with your lender so that they give you any instructions that are needed and work with the buyer. And so these are nice to haves if you're selling the car privately, which is your maintenance records, and a vehicle history report. This will show people that you've taken good care of the car and that it's in clean condition and hasn't been in any accidents.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, when it comes to the vehicle history report, is that good for dealerships? Is it worth it, or should that just be a private party thing?
No, it's not needed when you're gonna trade into a dealership. They can take care of it themselves. It's just more to show a private buyer that you've taken good care of the car and that it's in good condition.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, you mentioned your title. I know a lot of people lose their title. So what do you do if you can't find your title?
If you can't find your title, be prepared to take some time, because you have to show up at the DMV, and we all know there's long lines there. So that process to reapply for a new title can take anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks.
That's a long time. It sounds like you need to make sure to start this process a little early, huh? Especially for the title.
Correct.
Okay, now we have good tips. Now you guys know what you got to do for the paperwork. So you guys go look for your paperwork. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. But anyway, step 3. What is the next step to selling your car?
Maintenance and repairs.
Okay, now what should you fix?
You don't have to fix everything, especially when it comes to body work or any other major expensive repairs, because you may not always get that back when you sell the car. It's just important to be honest and upfront about it. Let your buyers know what's wrong with the car.
Okay, that makes sense. And for people who don't know, what should you fix?
Easy to fix items, for instance, like busted headlight because it's just a bulb. It could be as simple as that. These things are relatively inexpensive, but they can go a long way, you know, for the bottom line. Presentation is part of it, right? This is kind of what we're talking about. Getting a good car wash, because that helps your car like shine, puts best foot forward to say, right? First impressions make a big difference. And that goes into getting an inspection from a third-party mechanic, someone you trust. And then if they come back to you and say, hey, look, this is the best I've ever seen, like in terms of a condition, you can go back with confidence and say, hey, this is the price I'm asking for because of these things.
Is that just for the dealers or is that for private party?
No, it's not necessary for dealerships because they're going to do their own inspections and reconditioning of the vehicle. It really comes down to giving yourself the most information about the car and the people that are interested in buying it. That way you know what issues may come up, and if they want to negotiate, you have some facts to back it up. And also, if you live in a state that it requires a smog check before you sell the vehicle, like California, for example, then the onus is on the seller to get that taken care of and make sure the vehicle passes. So you want to do that as soon as you can so that you don't have the customer coming back to you and saying you got to take care of this later down the line.
Okay, well, that all makes sense. And it sounds like there's going to be a lot of maintenance stuff you guys need to do. So take your time. What's step 4?
Making your ad.
Making your ad. Okay, well, where do you even put an ad?
Well, obviously, if you're selling it to a dealership, you don't have to worry about the ad. But I would go to the ones that you have to pay for because I feel like that brings in a higher level, more serious customer. And when you're filling out the ad, you want to be honest about any issues and a complete description of the vehicle.
So you mentioned some things, but like what other kind of information should you put in your ad?
I mean, these are drilling down into the specifics of the vehicle itself. You're talking about year, make, model, trim, the mileage.
Ron, do you have to say like why you're selling the car or how long you've had it or?
Yeah, it's important to note these details. It's a question that they're going to ask you anyway, so you may as well head it off. And you want to note down why you're selling the car, how long you've had it for, if you're the first or second owner.
What about photos?
Photos are highly important. Photos, again, take as many photos as you want. This is part of being transparent and being honest, and take as many details. It's not going to cost you anything. So just take your phone. And another thing that'll help out is if you do a video walk around. Okay. So if you do a video walk around, it also adds to the transparency to basically add value to your vehicle because you're giving them confidence that you're not hiding anything.
So they always ask for contact info, but do I have to put my actual number?
You don't have to, and in many cases I recommend using these services that give you like a temporary phone number.
Okay.
That way you don't get hassled after the sale. You can get a temporary number and you'll be using that for the communication, and it would let you text people with that number as well.
Oh, okay, so no randos with your number. Rex, what's step 5?
Finding the right buyer.
All right, so you actually have to talk to people on the phone?
Yeah, that is one of the toughest parts, but if you've taken our advice and gotten a temporary phone number, you got a head start right there. And you wanna make sure you deal with the person that makes you feel comfortable with the sale. So a good buyer is gonna ask questions like the condition level of the car, why you're selling it, things like that. And in my experience, a less serious customer is gonna go immediately to price. Because what ends up happening is that if you do give them a price, they'll go even further down once they see the car in person. So you wanna be careful with that.
Oh, that's fair, that makes sense. Okay, and Rex, where should you go for a test drive?
So I would go into a public area that you're familiar with. That enables you to go ahead and test drive the car freely and comfortably for you.
And Ron, should they take a friend with them maybe, or?
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to bring a friend with you, safety in numbers, and that makes you feel more comfortable and you have someone else to kind of have your back.
Okay, how do you negotiate?
You want to be able to negotiate in smaller increments. A lot of people are going to go thousands of dollars off, and you want to meet them in between. Ideally, you want to have your rock bottom price that you don't want to go past, and you've built some buffer into your asking price so that you have some room to work with.
What if the buyer wants an inspection?
You can accompany them. That way you can go ahead and make sure it's not a buddy of theirs or somebody, some just rando person. You can also be there present to go ahead and take any questions that the mechanic has, just in case, you know, and that helps along with the transparency part and honesty.
All right, so what's the final step?
The final step is closing the deal.
Closing the deal. So what do you need to bring to close the deal?
So you want to bring your registration, your title, and if you've promised the buyer maintenance records, you want to bring that for them.
Now, what kind of payment should you accept?
So cash rules everything around me. Cash is the best way to go ahead and accept payment. I've seen a personal check bounce before, so you don't want to ever encounter that. So to avoid that, you can go ahead and get a cashier's check to make sure that that actually goes through.
Another thing you can do is get a check at a bank. So accompany the buyer and you can see them getting the check, and that's probably one of the safest things to do to avoid getting scammed.
Okay, that's a good idea. But what about payment apps?
Scammers like to use that, and then fraud protection is pretty weak.
Okay, noted, because do not take payment apps, all right? Just don't do it. Make your life easier. Now, what if you still owe money on the car?
So if you've taken our advice earlier, you've already gotten in touch with the lender, and you just have to follow their instructions as far as what they need to make that deal go through, because You're gonna have to make the arrangement that the buyer feels comfortable and that they're getting the title and that they have all the updated information. Now, if you're selling it to a dealership, they'll take care of that for you. So that is one of the conveniences there.
Private party aside, if you do decide to sell to a dealer, how do you choose a dealer? Like, do you go with the person who's offering the most money, or?
Yeah, that's gonna come down to personal preference. If you want the absolute best price, then just go with that one. But if not, I would advise people to go with a number that makes you feel comfortable. If there's a place that gives you a fair price and it's close by to you, then you may want to go with them.
Can you haggle with dealerships?
Not always, so it's going to be a case-by-case basis, but you will improve your chances if you do plan on buying a car from them. That makes them a little more willing to negotiate with you.
Okay, and that's it? Nothing else?
A release of liability form. I know California offers it, correct?
That's going to depend by state. So if you do need a bill of sale, you can find that on their DMV website. For the release of liability, you can actually find that on the DMV website, or sometimes it's attached to the title itself. You can mail that in or fill it out online. I recommend doing both just to protect yourself, and do it as soon as possible.
One last safety tip would be to do a factory reset on your head unit, because when you pair your phone, it takes in all of your contacts and points of interest.
All right, well, I think that's it. That was the final step. Thank you so much for all those steps. Now, you guys, don't forget to check out our full article for an in-depth guide on how to sell your car. And if there are any topics you'd like us to cover, don't forget to comment down below.